Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the final day or morning of the conference. I hope everyone's been enjoying themselves, getting informed, staying real aware, and learning new things from each other. I would like to welcome Dr. Michele Johnson and her co-presenters, Sheri and Jordan. I'm just going to read a little bio here, and then we'll get started. SÄL is a lead activist at the Syilx Language House and keeps herself busy running a 4-year, 1,600-hour adult fluency program, recording and publishing elders and staying healthy by spending lots of time out on the land. Sheri and Jordan are the star graduates of the Syilx Language House. Sheri will be the lead activist in the Syilx Language House, starting her own 4-year fluency program and elder recording program next September. And I don't have a bio on you, Jordan, but please feel free to introduce yourself. We'd love to hear more about your studies. And without further ado, let's welcome everybody to the podium.
Sweetie could translate them. Why peace nak silu squeeze imlau goed lim putjiap tastus kinj limt weekslaman.
Huma? Hey. SÄL said, good morning, everybody. We're very grateful that you're here, and I'm not going to lie, I wasn't really paying attention. Off to a good start.
Ihius kuala asli iskam me qua knaksala kissen qua quis kissen tishes chinach il ian kokweltenump.
We're here today, and it is my dream that we arrive and that we speak the truth, we speak our language, and we move forward in a good way together. Kuala, we are here.
Qua tis appingspient kin pikkel skull hulauch ut lutach me steen naxis zitol ian kokwelten.
10 years ago, I moved to the land of the Indian reservation in the Okanagan Valley. And holy smokes, I didn't even know one word of the language that I'm speaking here today.
Unichum. Ut qua kikum lutkin de nun huina qua chuslaman qua nichum.
I didn't know much, but I'm going to speak to you here today, and I'm going to listen as well.
Kikum lutkin de nun huina.
Lutkin to nun huina.
Lutkin de nun huina.
I don't...
almost don't believe myself.
Yeah. Kind of,
Kikum.
yeah, it's almost unbelievable where we're at.
Qua we see in Isnak Siluch Allah Ashley Kasnuntum Mus Spink Itol Isichma Mayach Tet Il and Kailuchanish.
I lift up these wonderful folks here, are just so good looking and so hard working, and man, did they work hard, because they worked for 4 years learning our language. Oh, tash.
Chuslaman, Quicks Pixtunum, Tes Muspink, Kin Hui, Ut Kinchqualt il Michum Tet.
So 4 years ago, I went over and I spoke to all the chiefs of the Syilx, the Okanagan Nation.
Ut Chun.
And I said,
Koek is huitstum oepingst. Kis oepingst itel en mis gast schreilig.
Give me the best looking, the most intelligent, the most smart alecked. No, give me your 10 best people of your community.
Pieks is huitstum. Kis oepingst. Sich I kissen tisches chinach.
And I will give you in return 10 amazing speakers.
Utschreichata is chut. Utschreichata is schlin.
They sat there and they stared at me. Oh.
Yeah,
Sorry, Uma. I'm sure they stared at her too the same way. But she sat there and she was very serious. She was very stern. This is her dream, and what she said was, "I'm serious. This is serious work, and I'm going to take this to my heart, to my mind, and we'll move forward together."
So I said it that way because I knew nobody knows how to do this. And I knew because I'm following this amazing curriculum that I had to sit in front of those chiefs, even though it just about killed me. I had to channel this person that I wasn't yet and say, give me 10 of your best people, just like that. And I said, it has to be my way. I have to do it my way. You have to not. And they said, oh, well, yeah, we don't want to do it. You have to do it. And they gave me 10 of their best people for 4 years. They were paid to come to the language house. And 2 of them are right here. And I can't even believe it. I'm talking to you. We actually finished 4 years. We crawled across that finish line 2 weeks ago. Oot apana. And I'll let them introduce themselves now. Sweet Hummings kissing me China.
Matt Huchincha. White P. Slachlacht. Tlachab. Kenlimt Kenala.
Hello, my friends and my elders. I'm very happy to be here.
Isquist SÄÁL Ken Suknakin Clan Kamip.
My name is SÄÁL Sheri Stelkia, and I'm from in Kamip, from the Syilx Indian Band in the Syilx Nation territory.
Skooky Twi Scram Talks. Suchma Mayam Tan Kailchan.
My aunt was Modesta Baptiste, and she's the one that taught me my language.
Huma Modesta Stelkia.
Modesta Stelkia. Huma.
Skooky Tali Kailt Ul Kuchelitz.
My aunt was getting old and getting sick, and she called upon me.
Kuchus.
She said to me,
Aha Aschkul.
this is your work.
And we Suchma Maya Mapna.
You are the teacher now.
Ulken Hui Kol Kolonauken Ulili Ken Suchma Mayach Ul Wistinihi Ul Simla Ku Kolquelst.
And I started out learning, and I went first to the Okanagan Center, which is an amazing center of culture and language in our territory. And there she met SÄÁL, and I spoke to her.
Uchun Simla Kulam to Nkelchanil Kenkuya.
And SÄÁL said to me, I'm going to make this language house, and you should come.
Actually, I told her if she did it, I would go.
Oh,
Ken hui, ken ala, la ken kwelt, la tichast.
and I went, and I'm here, and I'm speaking, and it's good.
Ihi in hui.
This is my road.
Ouais, il squeeze Taris.
Hello, my name is Therese.
Lut chachata.
Oh. Hello, my name is Therese.
Kan sukanak en tol is katok newt.
I am Okanagan from West Bank.
Kan tol chwach minik.
He's from lots of poop.
Gewa. Neuchis umlauf. Kan chlas gukwimal. Lutsweet oli snak Syilx kwelts in Kailochen.
When I was a little chubby kid running around, nobody talked the language.
Lutsweet oli snak Syilx.
None of my family.
Nachem tama ku juice I chasti I saums u chasti in Kailochen. Tama I Delphine.
His grandmother, Delphine, taught him a lot of words, good words in the language.
Nachem sluti unioch I snak Syilx.
She's not really his family,
Nachem ja sweet I snak Syilx.
but in our culture, everybody is family.
Os in ta tupa tui la la.
My great-grandmother, the late La,
Juice tama. Apena ast school us apena ast school us kan hiti snak Syilx.
she told my grandmother Delphine, this is your job to help the people.
Os chasti I strwal chwalt nachem lut kan tachs in Gailochen.
I had a good life, but I didn't have the language.
Tas apping spinkt in Chanach imlauch ku mulmiltum.
10 years ago?
Okay.
Nick? No, 10 years.
Mati uppingsel knaks spinkt up. Okay, what?
Huma, 11 years ago, he met up with Syilx.
Os koi achen.
Us, quite achen.
Os min penuntum in Gailochen tol child.
I learned the language, some of the language from Syilx, Richard Armstrong.
Os tas moes spink. Imlauch ku gelits.
4 years ago, Syilx called on him,
Os mi penuntum in Gailochen oli in Gailochen ilch.
and I learned Okanagan language at the language house.
Os apena kanala.
And here I am now.
Ist kwelt in Gailochen.
He's talking in the language.
Humti.
Humti. Us tali chachasat.
Oh, Nick. Oceanui. Italy and we.
Ah, geez. So we started this language house, and like I said, I went to the chiefs and council. I says, give me your 10 best people. And they did. They gave me these people. I went and asked for them by name. I said, I want Jordan Coble. And I was like, I wasn't sure about Sheri Stelkia. Honestly, she came and holy, just blew my doors off out of the water. Best attendance, best marks, best everything. So I take it all back, everything I ever thought. I'll ask for you, now I'm asking for you. I asked for the 10 best people. They actually gave me the 10 best people. And we've done, I guess when I meet the Mohawks, they say, oh, you're in 1979. Yeah, we're in 1979. We're kind of in the dark ages for our language, but we're coming into the light. This was really hard, and it's going to be easier for the next people. So last week, I went on a canoe journey, and I was praying in the back of the canoe. I was steering this giant cedar dugout canoe down the Columbia River for 7 days, and I was praying, I was yelling out these prayers for our salmon to come back and our tsimtus to come back, our sturgeon, because our language is critically endangered just like our salmon and our sturgeon. And we're making these huge Herculean efforts. We have fish ladders and fish hatcheries so that the salmon and the sturgeon come back, because these are important. And when I was praying by those rocks by the river, something Kwaikwaiachin said, my wonderful co-teacher who's not here today, Kwaikwaiachin Levi Bent, we're looking at the river and we're looking at where the salmon used to jump over this huge SÄAL, this waterfalls. And that waterfall is not there anymore because they dammed up our river and they decimated our salmon. And then our people, all that energy that would have gone into fishing and preparing for fish camp and being on the river and meeting each other and mealting and snagging and stuff, all that energy is just like decimated. It's just cut off by this wall. And now we're praying, we're working our butts off to bring everything back all at once. It's a heap of work. My name's SÄAL, and I'm from the Okanagan Nation. My ancestors are from the Okanagan Nation. They never thought I'd be standing here like this, doing this. But I am. Oh, I don't need to open this because I just say to James, next slide, please. Oh, I just click it. I have a green button. Everybody help me. SÄAL, press the green button. So grateful to Sam Titsa. This is the woman, when you think to yourself, what impact can one person have? Each one of you, if you're a fluent speaker, you could be Sam Titsa. And if you're just a fired up, passionate learner like we are, you could be us. You could be in the front wave. This is the woman that made all the recordings that we follow. And we're super lucky to be in the room with a couple of geniuses right here. Chris Parkin and Lorraine Wiley from the Syilx School of Spokane. SÄAL Kusin Matmayatin. Woo! They wrote our curriculum. We have what most languages don't have. We have this 4-year curriculum. Well, really, if we went at it full time, honestly, it would be 1 year. And I'm not telling you a 4-year is the best way to go. It's the only way I could get these people together. I was like, give me 2 days a week. I knew I couldn't get them 5 days a week. I knew I couldn't generate $1 million in my first year. Maybe we'll generate $1 million next year. We'll have a 1-year program. But for now, we have this amazing curriculum. You can teach it in 4 years or 1 year. And it's written by the Syilx School of Spokane. And these geniuses are in this room. They made this their life's work to make this curriculum so we can all learn. And us learners can teach each other. Grateful to other elders that have worked with us, like Kwikwi Tas. He did his recordings in the 70s, and now we're learning from him. I'm grateful to West Bank First Nation, Syilx Indian Band, Penticton Indian Band, Okanagan Indian Band, Okanagan Nation Alliance, Lower Similkameen Indian Band. There's 7 bands in my nation, and actually most of them stepped in and supported this program. Even though we're all about an hour apart, all these bands came together, and my students, they all drive an hour a day to get to the class. I got to stop calling them students, they're my graduates. Now they're my colleagues. And First Peoples Culture Council for the funding that's kept us going. So after I went to the chief and council and I said, give me 10 of your best people for 2 days a week for 4 years, I wrote a mission statement and I formed a nonprofit. It's like, holy, I got to put this money in the bank and I have to pay people. My mission statement's really simple. I don't get distracted by other things. So to me, language revitalization, bring it back to life. What does that mean? That means we're speaking. That means we're disciplining our children. We're in our workplaces. It doesn't mean numbers and colors. Create new speakers. There's 2 goals of language revitalization in my mind. And it's not fluffing around with other things. Create new speakers, record elders. So that's my mission statement. We do 2 things, so that's all we do. And I also run around collecting funding so I can keep these activities going. And I'm telling you about those 2 activities in this presentation. I'm going to show you 3 little films. Our first 4-year program, which finished 2 weeks ago, and then I went paddling down the Columbia River, crying into the river. These are our graduates, and hola, I'm real proud of these people. We all came across this finish line. We started with 12 people, and then at our peak, we were up to 18 people. It was honestly too crowded. And then we were 8 of us crawled across the finish line. So we have Therese Jordan Coble from West Bank First Nation. In Chachsitat, Shayla Allison from Lower Similkameen Indian Band. She's on the far left there. Sorry. Yeah, Lookers left. Pekal Kain, Maynard McRae from the Upper Nicola Band. Kwaikwaiachin, Levi Bent. He's my co-teacher. He's the one in the dark jacket in the middle. Skalula, Tyler Ernst from Upper Nicola Band. He's a school teacher. He has a master's degree. Sukish Uchalam, Sonia Jensen from Syilx Indian Band. She's a paddler and an archer. S撂ÁL, Sheri Stelkia from Syilx Indian Band. And myself. You have anything you want to add?
It's important to note, she mentioned that we all drive to the language house. So it's hosted in Penticton. Penticton Indian Band was graciously offered us a space called the Footprint Center. And so quite often we look at language as a community effort. You know, West Bank, we don't have very many speakers. We are starting to generate a few more learners, but we don't have the capacity to be able to offer something like this within our own community. And so the language house being hosted in Penticton was crucial because it's centrally located between where Sheri lives, where Maynard lives, which is all the way up north in Vernon. And so it's amazing that we had representation from pretty much every band within our nation. So this is really a nationhood effort as opposed to a community effort, which is really important to acknowledge.
So if you're wondering how we did it, how do you create new speakers? When I sat with those chiefs and I said, I know what to do. I know what to do because we have a curriculum. So 10 years ago when I was really lucky to meet Jordan in a language class in university at UBC Okanagan, and Richard Armstrong was our first instructor, amazing instructor, fluent elder. And I thought, wow, this language, it's critically endangered and we need some intensive programs. So at the time I was a Spanish teacher. I had been a Spanish teacher, so I knew like we have really good materials in Spanish. And then I met these guys. I took their course, and their first introductory instruction course, and at the time I was doing my PhD in something or other. I was a bit of a lost soul. I think I'll do it in land-based storytelling. And then I met these guys and found out about their curriculum. I switched my PhD topic. I created this whole kind of hubbub in the university. People were standing up and walking out of my rooms and dropping me as a student because I was going to become a fluent speaker, and this was too political for university. But because I met these guys and we had the wonderful curriculum, my topic became, I'm going to become fluent. It's the F word, sorry. And I'm going to get 10 people fluent with me. And what did we do? We sat in that room for 4 years. You got to put in about 2,000 hours. I read on it. I read up on it. It's going to take you about 2,000 hours. It's not 100 hours or 300 hours or 600 hours. And I know because in my first language house, I did 600 hours. And we're kind of like talking like 3-year-olds coming out of there. Like precocious 3-year-olds. We'd make really dirty jokes in our 3-year-old talk. And our elder would come, she'd laugh, and thank goodness she laughs. So we knew we are in the grizzly's den we put in 1,600 hours. All language is learned in the same way. If you hear people say, oh, I'm a visual learner or I'm an active learner, we all have the same brain structures for language. Babies learn language by just hearing it over and over and seeing people do stuff. This is how adults learn too. It goes in your brain. So it's about the work. It's about the 2,000 intensive hours. If you don't put in the 2,000 hours, then you won't be a speaker. But if you do put in the 1,600 hours with books and grammar drills, so that's a little takeaway message, because I didn't know that going in. I thought, because you hear people say, oh, I'm a visual learner. We all learn it in the same way. So we'll show you in the film some of the techniques we use. And as Brian Miracle said the other day about his Mohawk program, it's expensive. You got to pay people to be in the room. You got to pay people to become fluent, make it part of their jobs. If you work for the government, you've got to be fluent in French, and if you're not fluent in French, they pay you to go become fluent in French. So our language should be just as honored and revered. It's expensive, and I'm busy raising money right now for the next group. I think I need quite a bit. Chief Clarence Louis of OIB said, everything costs money. Oh, curriculum demonstration. Are we really going to do this? We're just going to show the films. Rock, paper, scissors? Do or do not? Do you guys want to learn what? Do not? What were you going to say? Waste of time? Okay, we're late. Keep going. I was going to do a little demo, but you'll see some techniques in the film. I will simply say to you, if you go on the website, interiorsyilx.com, you'll see that there are 6 textbooks. There's Instruction 1, there's Chapitre 1, there's Instruction 2, there's Chapitre 2, there's Instruction 3, and there's Chapitre 3. Oh, and then there's a bonus book, Instruction 4, which is being written right now. That's what he's writing right now. He's editing the grammar for Instruction 4 right now. This guy doesn't sleep. So 6 textbooks, and each one takes about 200 hours to teach, 100 to 200 hours, and each textbook has visual aids and audio files and teaching materials and lesson plans. It's the lesson plans. Those are key. I just follow the lesson plan. It tells me exactly what to do. And I'm a total beginner. When I was teaching Instruction 1, total beginner. I could teach in full immersion because the audio files and the lesson plans are all there. It creates this scaffold, and it creates this safe space for language. This is a film? Nodding? All right, roll it. This was after 200 hours, and we're doing our first language assessment presentation. Synchronous patchkit.
Iskui chuchuasket isquist, in liu klinumtum tan question isquist.
In Kishiotaxten, in Sukten, Achukasina, Kin Kachasat, Lutkin Depusus, Kun Clean.
In Chalutum Nashnas Syilx Keel Syilx Syilx Khalid Isumix Isumix Quitstum Tex Koskatans Syilx and Camtusum
Syilx Tequila comes, Isas Laos, Achagri. Syilx Kafka in the Calypse, Isas Laos, Achagri. Syilx Tequila comes, Isas Achagri. Syilx Mamas Paris Mountains, Syilx Calisi Sumix. Switch to that was God happens. Since the clear, signature staka. Since the clear, signature staka.
press the next button. So I watched that film. I feel really proud. I feel like when we did that, I couldn't even believe we had done that. And we had some elders come to our presentation, and they stood up. They said, well, that was pretty good, but you guys are saying some things a little bit wrong. And they said, how long have you been studying? And we said, 2 months. And they're just like, whoa! And you guys are speaking really good. They never heard anyone speaking. And yeah, it's kind of like childish talk. You could hear us laughing and making kind of funny little jokes that were pretty simple jokes, but we're having fun and we're talking. And that was in year 1. That was after 200 hours. So you're going to see the next film and the next film, and we're storytelling after 1,600 hours. I'm going to show you a page out of each book so you get the idea. The books get more and more complex. They start out with the fun and games, and we do things like we got fly swatters. So we'll put the words up on the board, and then you call up 2 people. Sometimes I do this with the audience, like, hey, you and you, come on up, grab a fly swatter, and then I say the words. You got to hit the word with a fly swatter, and it's a little race, and it's really fun. Book 1 and 2 is all fly swatters and fun and games. By the time you get to book 3, we're sitting down, we have desks, and we have our books open. It's getting a little more serious, I guess, more like what you'd think of as traditional language learning in a classroom. This is an animal lesson. A little more about that in a moment. The other thing we do, we create the fluent speakers. Part 2 of our mission statement is record our fluent elders. We have about, well, they say fewer than 40 fluent elders left in our language. And there's about a dozen that will actually work and speak and do recordings, and we're really lucky because we have most of those fluent elders. They work with us, and some of us choose not to do recordings, but these ones do. And what we do every year, myself and and we record the elders. I'll show you how simple this is, because some of you could start doing this. Create fluent speakers, record your elders. This is all it takes. This is a Yeti microphone. You buy them at London Drugs. They're about $200. It plugs right into the laptop. And we use Audacity software, which is free, which is really easy to use. I love it. And that's all it takes. You sit down with your elder, you turn on the microphone, you record them, and we transcribe them, and we put them all up on our website, because to us it was really important that they all be free and freely shared, and any one of you can go to our website and click on it and listen to it and download it, and all the learners. So if I die in a car wreck tomorrow, this is all up on the website. It's all fine. I just uploaded our 5th elders book. This is number 4, and number 5's hot off the presses, and it's on the website. I better check that I put it on. Number 4 is on for sure. That's our website there.
The elders' recordings are very important because that's our history. That's who we are as a people. It's great to have curriculum. You know, we always kind of joke. It's nice to be in a room full of language warriors, because you joke about, like, oh, what do you know in the language? Well, I can count to 10. I know the colors, those types of things. But we need to learn how to speak in conversation. And so when we record our elders, we can hear them speak as if they're having a conversation. So everyday use. And so you get a lot of those connectors, the he and the waisich, and all these, the words that you don't really have a translation for in our language, in English, I should say, right? All of our languages are much more complex than English. And so when it comes to translating, there's gaps. And so hearing the elders speak in a fluent manner, just telling stories, really kind of creates that sense of connection to the language. It really kind of builds that confidence up in us. And it helps us stay in the language a little bit more, because then we understand when we're reading the curriculum or studying the curriculum and we hear the elders actually speak in a conference, well, there's missing links, and so the elder recordings help us bridge those gaps, help us stay in our Nkailochtin minds, and help us provide curriculum for ourselves. Some days in class we just need a break from the curriculum, so we just do an elders recording and we sit there and we listen and then we go through it, and it's just kind of a nice little break. It's still all in Gaelochin, but instead of, and I don't get me wrong, I love Samtitsa, but it's nice to have mixtures of elders because everyone has their own accents, you know, so you can get used to hearing Samtitsa. And when I was at our Royal BC Museum and I heard her voice, I was like, oh, Samtitsa, and you get that sense of home. And then we switched over to our latest book right before we finished our session, and we had Quiquitas, and it was like, whoa, this guy doesn't speak like Samtitsa, and, you know, and then when you speak to other elders, like, whoa, like you speak really fast. And so you really have to kind of naturalize yourself into conversations.
Yeah, the elders' recordings were my favorite part, listening and transcribing. And it was really interesting because we put on headphones, and that made the whole difference. I could hear the pronunciation and the little joiners, like Sheri said. And it was really interesting to sit in the classroom and watch the other students when SÄMLAH started the recording, and they're all sitting there and they're like, what? Because it's just so different when you hear the language flow naturally, and you have to really pay attention. You have to get every sound that's in there, and if you miss a little sound, then it's a different word. So it's so interesting to listen to the language being spoken fluently, and that was on the recordings, and I don't know, I enjoyed that so much.
And you know what I enjoyed too, as the teacher, I like to stretch my students. So I put on the elder recordings, and like she says, they're just like, whoa, like they can't understand a thing at first, and then you get used to it, and you do it a sentence at a time. But SĵÁL, because she's an advanced listener, when we'd be listening and trying to type it out in class, I'd always look over to SĵÁL, go, do you think that's a ta or a pa? And she'd say, ta it is. Chamistis, she knows. We got one more film, and this film was after year 2. So we're speaking a little more, playing different kinds of games. You'll see us doing review, and you'll see a little bit of the elders speaking too.
This is your buy-in to come visit us. Right?
Oh, please come visit. Isquis Imlau, Olsen Pinkton, Kikin Mut. My name is Michele Johnson. I'm the lead teacher at the Syilx Language House Association. Myself and my co-teacher, Goya Dayensti, are leading a class that's 2,000 hours in duration, and we have 14 students, so together we're 16. It's amazing that we have representation from across the Syilx Nation, and most students travel an hour a day to drive to this program.
Isquis Goya Dayensti. Kintel Sitjark Nachams Apana Alakos Syilx Temhulau Kikenmut. My name is Tiana Lewis. I'm from New York, but I now live in the Syilx Okanagan Nation territory. I am co-teacher and also a student here at the Inkelchen Language House. I'm really grateful for this because in a lot of our communities we have language classes start, but then commitment dies down and it just never really works. And so what I think is unique here is that those of us in those communities have been able to come together and work towards this goal of gaining our fluency and bringing the language back to common use, because when we see each other, we do speak the language.
Each and every one of us is here because we've chosen to be here. We've tried other programs, and we know that what we're using here are really effective teaching methods. 2 years ago, I approached chief and council from 3 different bands, and I said, give me 10 of your best people 2 days a week for 4 years, and I will give you mid-intermediate speakers, some new speakers. And each of those 3 bands, Penticton, Syilx, and West Bank First Nation, they committed core funding, and they supported students. Instruction is an incredibly complex language. It has a complex phonology, which means it has complex sounds, and it has a really complex grammatical structure. But we're very lucky because we have curriculum. The Syilx School of Spokane created 6 textbooks for us. They're a gift to learners. And we can use these 6 textbooks even though we are beginner learners ourselves, and we can maintain immersion for full days and produce these full lessons in immersion because of this amazing curriculum.
Because the curriculum is built in a way that as soon as you go through book 1, it would be good if you could teach it. Because in teaching it, you have to know it, and you have to know it in a different way because you have to be able to make those sentences on the fly and ask those questions. We're babies in this language. We weren't brought up in this language for whatever reason, and it's not our fault. It's important to have that language base because language is culture. You can't have culture without having the language.
Here at the Syilx Language House, we focus on 2 things: to create new Syilxian speakers, and at the same time, we have relationships with 7 fluent elders from across the Syilx Nation. We had a session a while back where we invited a number of elders to storytell, and the elders were just so happy to be speaking in Qailaqchan and to be understood. We're doing recording sessions and transcribing and preserving as much of their spoken material as we can in the time we have. Indigenous language revitalization faces many challenges. Given the hundreds of years of colonization, our language learners experience some tensions in learning. So our techniques include partner exercises, group exercises, dialogues, which is building leadership and speaking skills that are designed to keep the language light and interactive. As we teach, we become better speakers. That's the beauty of this curriculum.
Our course is credited through SFU, which I find really amazing because in my remote community that I live in, I can be a university student without having to go to Vancouver or to the island. And my dream is that I can go home and bring this to my children.
So if we wanted Syilxian to live, we know that we're going to have to create what's called language domains. Once this program is done, our plan is to create full immersion workplaces with the support of the bands and leadership, and full immersion schools for my students to work in. This is my dream, that it will come from us, and each of us will raise up all of our indigenous languages. So we took you through year 1, year 2, and now we're on midway, just near the end of year 2. This is book 4, and you can see the books are becoming more complex. There's less English, there's almost no English at all. These are stories. The unique thing, maybe the 2 unique things about the curriculum that we follow that's created by the Syilx School of Spokane is that it's designed to be taught by learners, and that right away you're learning your traditional stories in the language. So this is, to us, really made us feel connected to our language. So instead of learning, we also learn baby words like where's, pass me the salt, and I'm hungry, but right away we're learning but the boy was still wild and he was unable to manage returning to his family. This is a story about the boy who was taken in by grizzlies.
It's important to recognize the learning process in my community in West Bank, we don't have very many learners, or we didn't have very many learners. We're getting more now, but that's because we're learning together. And I think that helps bridge the gap. In our community, we have reluctance for people to learn because it's difficult. And I'm not gonna lie, it is extremely difficult to learn our language. It takes a lifelong commitment. And some people just aren't willing to do that, or some people just don't wanna take that first step. But when you can learn with them, you can say, hey, look, you're gonna make mistakes, but guess what? So am I. I might be your teacher today, but I'm gonna make a mistake, and we're gonna make them together, and then we're gonna laugh about it. And then we're gonna create that safe environment so that we can encourage each other to learn while we're teaching. And it also goes to the point of what Dr. Lorna Williams talked about yesterday, awakening those silent speakers. So in our community, in my community, we have a number of people that I know are fluent speakers of the language, but they don't come out and speak the language at events or meetings. They'll speak to me once in a while now because I've been brave enough to approach them and speak. But in some ways, I put myself on that pedestal and I say, okay, I'm gonna make mistakes here and blah, 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 and here I go. And then they come up there and go, well, it's not ol queenach, il queenach. And I go, oh, huma? And they look at me and like, oh, now you're speaking and now you're teaching. And so all of a sudden they went from not speaking at all to, in a way, we don't like to use the word correcting, but I'm okay with it because that's the way I was brought up. And so they correct me all the time and that's cool. But I get them to speak. And then so right now I'm working with our public works and utilities crew from West Bank First Nation, and they're the shyest bunch, but they have a lot of speakers, silent speakers on their crew. But they weren't able to pull that language out of them to put signage on their trucks and whatnot because they were just too reluctant. And so I did that and I made mistakes and they called me out on it, and now I'm doing language with them and they're attending, and first thing they say is, well, you're the young man, I'm the old man, and I'm here to teach you some language. And I said, that's awesome. We're here to learn and you're here to teach me, even though that I was instructed to teach these guys. And so now that sharing responsibility of teaching becomes all of our responsibility, and we learn together and we encourage one another. And so it's working on twofold. It encourages the new learners, but it awakens those silent speakers as well.
Unichum. Kiwa, so many good points there about when we get to intermediate, it is okay to correct us. And if we have a strong, strong skin, it's okay. I was talking to a gentleman this morning about correcting and how you can easily break people's spirits. So one of our rules when we start is never correct. We just butcher it for the first couple months. It's terrible. S偕ÁL had a hard time listening to us. It was... But little by little, we got better. Oh yeah, book 5, grammar boxes. It's a thing.
Dum, dum, dum.
You can't get through advanced level without grammar boxes. I'm sorry. Well, maybe you can. Maybe there's another way, but this is our way and it works. It really works. Every language that's being taught successfully in the world, the Mohawk program, there's grammar boxes. There's I saw you, you saw me, I saw them, you all saw me. There's all these articles and particles. Oh, yeah, we're on the 3rd film, which means there's not too much more to go, and then we get to talk about some of the challenges we experienced, and you can give us a question and answer. This film, it was pretty halfway into year 4, and we're storytelling. So each of the students, they told a 10 to 20 minute long traditional story, and then, because I'm ruthless this way, I just edited it down so they each had like 30 seconds in here. And then we went and performed these in public. And I cried. I see these guys every day, and I still cried when I saw them standing on the stage and performing stories and using hand gestures. Because, we're pretty shy, retiring people. Let's play the film. It's 6 minutes long. You'll see each one speaking. And the guy singing is my co-teacher, who's an amazing language learner.
Nakumt I Kwakwayuma, Chichamas, Kol in Kostens I Ulach, I Ulach I Chachait Ata Abnatas Chachalt, Tali Chichamat.
Ashvolsti Sinclair Kaicht. Urtus why Limlam Slachtes Kasapi is eat Urswa Lutaka Ilsum Sinclair Qua Lutkusich Ich Quiskelmich Kindlich Kitcher Sinclair Lutaka Ilsum Oh Nachum Ax Ikit Ix.
Shachla Sinclair Usum Tisclaginam Uti Hindu Luz Kakichum Tisclaginam Palaki Simpultins Ulumzi Etquar and Schlachus Ignacham Nuch Lut at the geest die eeuwig niet.
Ja, die karam or hoi outi simply ich hois or kesh is in chapsios kalis de ish chin.
Aichacha Ananik Haitit Kla in Chip Kissin Chip Jeepsons Nachum Weeks Arsik Haitit Quidpinu Duthin Tetter Quinchut in Kitchenikis Arsik Ananik Haichutums.
Nachher, stimmt der Weiher. Schleppen Jutz, Tallinn, Heichus, in Tachten schlägt sie 70 Wochen noch. Krachten ja doch. Dann Kolat heute tut. Und ab und nach Tallinn, Kasusi. Sten Weiher. Klemmi, wie Swing Numpris, Gaga, und ab und nach Kasus.
Kento sen pinten Lut kentak chachaminak Mekich kauta
Oh, y'all are very patient. I really appreciate all of you being here. I know it's the last day of the conference. We all usually deke out and go shopping and look at things. I'm still here. I really appreciate you guys all being here. Wow, this was an amazing conference, huh?
Make some noise for the First Peoples Cultural Council and all the volunteers. Hey!
Kiwa. Oh, gosh. Book 7. Oh, so Atten, he's sitting there. He's writing book 7 right now. About, 4 or 5 months ago, I'm sitting in my office. I'm like, Atten, we finished book 6. I'm like, okay, we're just going to learn our elder recordings. He's like, no, I got book 7. I'm like, oh, it comes in my inbox. I print the whole thing out. Lesson 1, it's like 20 pages long. It's all like tiny little font, like tiny. I cried. I put my head down my desk. No one was around. Oh. You know that bad, the can't. I can't do it. I can't. I show it to my co-teacher, and he's just like, holy. And then we went through that, and I'm like, okay, we can't let our students see us freaking out like this. They come in the next week, and we're just like, here's the book. It's quite challenging, and I'm going to tell you all, we're going to experience some language tension. We may feel the urge to, language tension. People start to lash out at each other. You get a little grunchy, a little owly. You're like, I don't like this. Or This is language tension. It makes us have poor behavior. And Kwikwita's was very close to making us have poor behavior. It was tough. It was a heavy lift. But Anton told me, and then I told my students, this is an honor to be at the place where we're able to even consider this heavy lift. It's such a heavy lift. We're the only ones in Canada, and they're down there in Washington studying the same book at the same time. We're like neck and neck with our Washington sister organization. Made us feel really good. Hey, do you have lesson 2? We finished lesson 1, and Anne was like, I'll get it to you by midnight. So I just put that there because even seeing that, it makes my eyes water a little bit, like, oh, it's really hard. But Holy, we learned so much because it stretched us, it just pushed us. And when these guys are going to teach the next language program, when they get to book 7, they're not going to cry like I did. Oh yeah, book 7's coming up, we see it.
Speak for yourself.
Well, when we talk about challenges.
Are you kidding? I'm already crying.
Shouldn't have put book 7 up, huh? Takes them 4 years to get there, they'll be fine. Oh, what have we learned? And then we're going to talk about some challenges and things, and I think this might be our last slide. Oh yeah, and then moving forward, what is our plan? Key, we're perfect here. So the takeaway message, y'all go to your chief and council, you say, I want 10 of your best people 2 days a week for 4 years, and you look them right in the eye, because you know what to do. I know, you know, chmistin, chmisteep. We want fluent speakers, and we're not going to settle for anything less than, I'm sorry, high intermediate, low advanced. We assess ourselves all the time. And then sometimes I have to use the word fluent because it's just shorthand for we can speak all day long to each other and get our needs met in the language. 2,000 hours is your answer. The curriculum model is super effective. I can't say amazing curriculum enough times. And if you don't have a curriculum, there's a couple programs across Canada that have curriculum. The Mohawk have curriculum. You can follow their model. We have curriculum. It's free. You can follow it. I encourage you to follow it. Come visit me. Come visit Atten and NECTAT in the Syilx School of Spokane. They give training programs. I give training programs. Theirs are better because they're my mentors, but I like visitors too. You know what? And then we are going to talk about this a little bit together because we've got a few minutes left and we can ask questions about this. We're planning on starting in the next cohort next year. We're going to start in January, and these are the new teachers, the next wave. We're going to try and get them each 15 students, and their bands are going to support them.
But one of the challenges that I face and we face is that not like the Mohawk model where they have 5 days a week language learning. I'm a full-time employee. I operate the Syilx Heritage Museum out of West Bank First Nation, so I'm responsible for managing an entire museum. That's a full-time job in itself. Learning language, whether it's 2 days a week or 5 days a week, it's a full-time job itself. And so the challenge for myself is trying to find that balance. I also have 3 children and a wife and a house that I just recently built. And so language is my passion. Language is my priority. It works for me because it doesn't matter if we have a museum if we don't have language. So that's my motivation right there. That's my argument to my supervisors and my chief and council when they say, oh, you got to spend more time learning the museum. And I say, well, I am, because I'm learning my language. I don't know anything without language. I always tell people, I operate and I run a museum today. I never took a history class in my life. Everything I've ever learned came through my elders, through my borrowed grandparents, through the language that I've learned, and through this curriculum here. And so it's about finding that balance so that you can be successful in life. And that's what we want to model for our future generations, the future learners of these classes, that you don't have to sacrifice your well-being in order to be a successful language speaker, but also parent, business person, whatever it might be. But you need the support from your community. You need the support from your nation. And whether that's financial support, or just people that says, hey, Syilx, you did a great job, keep on going, I got your back. You know, that's crucial, because that third point down, language is not the most difficult part. We are all passionate about language. We're all there for one reason. That was the easy thing. Trying to figure out the balance between everything else, plus what I call language politics, that was the most difficult part for us. For me, anyway. I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone else. But that's I just wanted to share that with you.
And he speaks for me, because the language politics is the most difficult part. I'm doing a mentor-apprentice thing right now with a lady who lives just in the next valley to me, in the Syilx Valley. Syilx is her name. She's a very fantastic lady. Anyways, I'm mentoring, well, I'm apprenticing, I guess. I don't know how do you say that? Anyway, she's the mentor, I'm the apprentice. And so I talked to one of my elders from my own community, and he says to me, oh, you're learning the Syilx way of talking. And I looked at him and I just smiled and I thought, okay. I said, yeah, maybe I am. I said, but you know, if you would be so generous as to teach me our way of saying it, then we'll be doing great. I'll know 2 ways. And he just looked at me and smiled. And I thought, I got ya. But he likes to say, oh no, I don't understand. I don't understand. So the one day I met him in the hall and I said, why hatik khast? And he looked at me and he smiled. He said, tik khast. And then I laughed and he looked at me and he said, damn you, you tricked me. I said, you understand. But no, you know, politics it plays a big part in the language. And support is key. Like, my band is in total support of me. Which was, you know, when I first started, you know, they didn't really voice it that much, but now they're in total support. You know, they're willing to if I asked to do another 4 years at the Language House, they'd say, yeah, go ahead, do it, if it helps. So, but language is not the most difficult part. The most difficult part is the politics. We did face a lot of challenges. We did spend a lot of time, well, not a lot of time, but, you know, we spent time crying together, laughing together, holding each other up.
It seemed important to address this part. This is something we don't talk about this too much amongst ourselves, because mostly we're just in the trenches learning language. But now and then I say, well, what are you experiencing in your workplace and in your band? Because I know my back is full of arrows, right? It's just like it's bleeding down my back, but I have people that support me and I take really good care of myself. And I thought the language was going to be the most difficult part. The language is really difficult, but it was the easiest part. Moving forward, we would love to have credit for our program. We basically, we delivered a 4-year bachelor program without credit, and I'm real proud of that, but I think my students deserve a bachelor's after 1,600 hours of hard work.
That being said, I take special pride in doing this because I want to do it, doing this in honor of my ancestors and doing this for my children. I want to share this story. I got a couple of seconds here. There's our very first year, we do a lot of songs, and it's really, like she said, it's a lot of games, a lot of fun. It's really encouraging. It really creates that really kind of fun atmosphere, safe environment. So I was at home and I was practicing my songs, and I think it was, why, hati quest, why, hati quest. And then I was singing along, and all of a sudden my daughter, who was, I think she was 5 at the time, walks in the room and goes, hati quest, up in that. Holy smoke, like, Hachimi Stilkia Synchrony. Do you know that song? She goes, yeah, I'm learning that song right now. And that's when I had that breakthrough in everything that I was scared of. In our community, we teach language in classrooms, but it never ever got home. That was that moment when language came into our home. And I always wanted to, that was my first child. I always wanted to raise my children, I wanted to raise them, but I didn't know enough to be able to raise them in that way. But then I knew at that moment that we're going to teach each other from here on out. She's going to be learning exactly what I'm learning, and from here on out, I have to share this to you. I had to give her a call on Monday because seeing the opening and seeing those children come up here and sing, and I was just bawling my eyes out, going, I miss my family. So I called my daughter and I said, hey, do you remember when you asked me to go to the bathroom in the language? And she says, yeah. And I said, I didn't tell you at the time, but that made me so proud, and I just wanted to say I love you, and I really want to encourage you for that. And she said, oh, okay. And I was, and I was crying. I'm going, I just really miss you, and I just want to encourage you to speak. And what's amazing is that she's my eldest daughter. My youngest daughter, it'll be 2 on Monday. She probably understands more in Kailukchin than she does English at this point. And so language is in our home.
Yeah, I'm going to speak to that last point and move to what we're moving on to next. Lorna Williams kuchuntum hakuskailukum lut hachmi steep kusweet inchachmi stinkin sweet nachums equict qua in SÄL actually colonization. We need to know who we are. We need to be real strong in that, and we need to, even if we see racism and sexism and discrimination around us, we don't need to pass that on. And I've been learning these things from, my people have been through a lot of pain. And there's the, are we SÄÁLach? Are we people or are we not? And then I'm learning about racism, the definition of person. Am I a person? I'm a mixed person. Does that make me not a person? Does that make me a part of a person? And I love that Lorna said that. Our challenge includes identity, and there's going to be people, if you're a mixed person like me, you have the right to learn your language. You don't have any control over who slept with who in your ancestry. I'm SÄÁLach, I'm First Nations, and I've got the Caucasian ancestry. And knowing this, knowing who I am, it doesn't make the arrows any fewer, but makes them a little easier to pull out, I guess. And, oh yeah. We know what we need to do. We need to make the next language house, and then the tiny little tweaks that we learned along the way, we're going to tweak them so these guys are going to do an even better job. I think we did okay, because you heard them speaking. And they're not speaking like babies, they're speaking like. And if they'd like to say anything about their plans for the next one, we got a couple minutes. Any questions, anybody, for my?
That brings into question the whole idea of getting living allowances while you're doing this. And if it's not recognized, I don't think you can get living allowances through the DIA post-secondary program. So I think that's something we need to push for, is to have our language programs recognized as post-secondary learning programs so that we can get that living allowance funded. I think that's something that's really needed.
Kiwa, I agree. Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
Yasik share ni staho uye jam mehtasal kat ukwa itas kunaku otakshia. Ha akapi chapek shikapaku kwa kenati yakin ku as o kut masa sakutah uye. Tayo hot haye haye gistakshito ha kwat na 27 years ago you matex kuyet subkutas ha kwatokan Okanagan. You know, I've been so happy the past 2 days now. As a speaker, as a fluent speaker, historian, you name it, I've learned it all from my ancestors. And one of the things, you know, I find it very, you know, I don't even know how I feel to be, you know, 27 years ago, we adopted a girl. She comes from here, the Okanagan. I remember the day we picked her up, how she was so happy when we picked her up, and she didn't know where she was going. She was about 1.5 years, something like that, maybe younger. But I'm hoping, you know, I don't want her to lose anything. I don't want her to lose. Just recently, about 4 years ago, she found her mom. I was so happy for her. And about 1 year later, we adopted our son, her brother. They were going to ship him down to the American side if we didn't pick him up in Calgary. We got a call, and the next day, we left Tofino. We headed to Vancouver. We got the quickest flight we could get to Calgary. And I remember my son. He was so happy to see us, even though he didn't know me. He didn't know my wife. But we could tell he was so happy. And it was disturbing to know that they were going to send him down to the States if we didn't pick him up. But, you know, the thing is, my son went to see his mom last year. And I didn't know what to say to him. I didn't know, you know, were you happy? Were you glad you got to see her? He lives in Vancouver right now. But I'm so anxious, too, at the same time. My daughter's got 3 children. And I'm, you know, like I say, I want them to learn this. I want them to, you know, get everything they can from you. You know, I want them to go home, you know. I want them to reach out to you. And I'm really anxious to see her and tell her, you know, that I want you to go home. I want you to go teach, learn, you know what I mean? It's, you know, I know many of our children are lost out there. I know a lot of our children are on the American side. We don't know what, they don't even know they belong here. I'm from the New Channel, West Coast, Vancouver Island. And I try to teach them as much as I can. Her daughter is such a sweetheart. You know, it's such a little sweetheart. She takes care of me. She's 6 years old. Every time, every morning, you got water, Grandpa? You got ja'ak water, you know. But I would like to get more information from you and then take it to her and share it with her children. And I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you so much. Thank you all for everything. Chew.
Thank you so much for coming, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your conference and your lunch. Real proud of you all for your warrior work you're doing. White.